Center Court, Wimbledon. A 38-year-old man with a 10-match losing streak, winless in 2025, ranked 138th in the world, walks onto the most famous tennis court on earth. Across the net stands Carlos Alcaraz, defending champion, world number 2, on an 18-match winning streak. Logic says this should be a massacre. Instead, Fabio Fognini nearly pulled off one of the greatest upsets in tennis history. 4 hours and 27 minutes later, after pushing Alcaraz to 5 sets, Fognini said something that reveals everything about the psychology of endings. "I think this probably the best way to say goodbye to Wimbledon, and maybe for tennis. That's what I'm thinking now." Today, we're exploring why farewell performances often become the most memorable.
There's a powerful psychological phenomenon at play when people know they're experiencing something for the last time. The approaching end removes the weight of future consequences and creates what we call terminal freedom, the liberation that comes from having nothing left to lose or protect.
I've witnessed this countless times in professional sports. Athletes who have struggled for months suddenly produce their best performances when they know it's their final appearance. The psychology completely flips. Instead of playing to extend their career, they're playing to define how they'll be remembered.
Today we're diving deep into the psychology of endings, why last chances often become best chances, how knowing it's over can paradoxically set you free, and what Fognini's near miracle tells us about the power of playing for legacy instead of survival. To understand the magnitude of what almost happened, you need to know where Fabio Fognini was mentally and professionally. This wasn't just an aging player facing a younger champion. This was a man whose career was essentially over, making his peace with endings, suddenly finding magic he thought was gone forever. Numbers paint a brutal picture. Fognini entered Wimbledon on a 10-match losing streak at tour level. He hadn't won a single match in 2025. His ranking had plummeted to 138th. At 38, he was the third oldest player in the men's draw. By every metric that matters in professional tennis, his career was effectively finished.
I was looking good, I think. If we make an analysis of the match, I think I lost the first set, and I didn't deserve to lose the first set. Then I was a breakdown, and I won the second. He won the third. But I was up again 2-1 with a break. Yes, the beginning of the 5th set was completely I didn't deserve being 4-love in the 5th set like that because I was 40-15 in the second game. I lost that game.
Notice how Fognini analyzes the match with almost clinical detachment. There's no desperation or regret in his voice, just a man who played his heart out and knows he gave everything. That's the psychological peace that comes with accepting endings while still fighting to make them meaningful.
But here's where the story becomes psychologically fascinating. Fognini announced this would be his final season earlier this year. He came to Wimbledon knowing it was his last time walking through those gates, his last time on center court, his last chance to create one final memory. That knowledge changed everything.
To finish here, I can't ask a better way. Now, of course, there's something that is salty in my mouth because I had my chance if we are speaking about tennis. In the beginning of the 5th set, still there. But okay, he's a champion. He won 2 times here. At the moment, I think he's probably the best player in the world.
That quote reveals everything about farewell performance psychology. He's simultaneously disappointed he couldn't finish the job and completely at peace with how his story ends. That internal calm is what allowed him to play fearlessly for nearly 5 hours against the world's best player.
Meanwhile, Carlos Alcaraz was operating from a completely different psychological framework. He's the defending champion, supposed to cruise through this first round. He's carrying the weight of expectations, the pressure of maintaining his winning streak, the burden of protecting his ranking. Every point Fognini won felt like a potential disaster.
I don't know why it's his last Wimbledon because the level he has shown, he can still play 3 or 4 more years. Unbelievable. I just have to give him the credit for such a great match. Fabio is such a great player. He has shown in his whole career the level he has. I'm just a little bit sad that it's his last Wimbledon.
Alcaraz's response shows genuine confusion about why someone playing at that level would retire. From his perspective as a 22-year-old champion, Fognini's performance seems to contradict the decision to end his career. But that's exactly the point. Knowing it's the end unleashed Fognini's best tennis.
The psychological contrast couldn't have been starker. Fognini was playing to create a beautiful ending to his story. Alcaraz was playing to avoid a catastrophic beginning to his title defense. One was hunting for glory, the other was protecting against disaster. That difference in mental frameworks nearly determined the outcome.
I've seen this dynamic destroy young champions before. When an aging veteran has nothing to lose and starts playing the tennis of their life, it can be psychologically overwhelming for the favorite. Every game becomes harder than expected. Every set becomes a battle they weren't prepared for.
Match statistics tell the story of 2 completely different mental approaches. Alcaraz faced 21 break points, an absurd number for a player of his caliber. He made 62 unforced errors to just 52 winners. His serve, usually a weapon, betrayed him with 9 double faults. These aren't technical failures, they're symptoms of psychological pressure.
When expectations are high and the opponent is supposed to be easy, every mistake gets magnified in the player's mind. Meanwhile, Fognini was experiencing the opposite. Every good shot felt like a bonus. Every one game felt like a gift. That psychological freedom is incredibly powerful.
What makes farewell performances so psychologically potent is the complete removal of future anxiety. Fognini wasn't worried about his next match, his ranking, his season, or his career trajectory. He was living completely in the present moment, focused solely on this one match, this one opportunity to create something beautiful.
This is what we call temporal perspective in psychology. When people know something is ending, they often experience a shift in priorities from optimization to meaning-making. Instead of playing to win the next match, Fognini was playing to create a memory worth carrying forever.
There's also something powerful about the symbolism of endings. Center court at Wimbledon isn't just a tennis venue, it's hallowed ground. For Fognini, this wasn't just his last match there, it was his final chance to touch greatness on the sport's most sacred stage. That emotional weight often translates into extraordinary performance.
The venue matters psychologically. Playing your farewell match on center court against the defending champion with the whole tennis world watching, that's not pressure, that's inspiration. Fognini knew this was his moment to remind everyone why he belonged at this level.
Fognini's performance also tapped into what psychologists call legacy motivation, the drive to be remembered in a specific way. Instead of fading quietly, he chose to roar one final time. That choice to control his narrative gave him psychological power that transcended his physical limitations and recent poor form.
Legacy motivation is incredibly powerful because it connects present actions to eternal meaning. Fognini wasn't just hitting tennis balls, he was crafting the final chapter of his story. That sense of purpose can unlock performance levels that seemed impossible just days before.
The emotional aftermath of the match reveals just how successful Fognini was in achieving his psychological goals. He received a standing ovation from center court, a rare honor reserved for the most special moments. Even Alcaraz joined in applauding his opponent, recognizing he had witnessed something extraordinary.
I think this is probably the best way to say goodbye to Wimbledon and maybe for tennis. That's what I'm thinking now. I am happy for sure. I have a lot of emotion coming to my mind. Yes, with super amazing atmosphere over there. I enjoyed it a lot.
That quote captures something profound about the psychology of endings done right. Fognini isn't devastated by the loss, he's fulfilled by the experience. He got to leave on his own terms, playing his best tennis when it mattered most, creating a memory that will outlast any ranking or record.
The impact extends beyond Fognini himself. Alcaraz admitted he was genuinely confused about why someone playing at that level would retire. That match will stick with him, a reminder that anyone can be dangerous when they have nothing to lose and everything to prove.
For other aging athletes watching, Fognini's performance becomes a template for how to handle endings gracefully. Instead of clinging desperately to a fading career, he showed how accepting the end can paradoxically unlock your best performances.
There's also a beautiful postscript to this story. After the match, Fognini asked Alcaraz for his shirt as a gift for his son Federico, who had flown to London specifically to watch his father's final Wimbledon match. Even in defeat, Fognini was thinking about legacy and creating memories for the next generation. So what can we learn from Fognini's farewell masterpiece? First, that accepting endings can be incredibly liberating. When you stop fighting against the inevitable and start embracing it, you often discover capabilities you didn't know you still possessed.
The key insight is about shifting from optimization thinking to meaning-making thinking. Instead of asking, how can I extend this as long as possible, the question becomes, how can I make this ending meaningful? That psychological shift often unlocks extraordinary performance.
Fognini's approach also teaches us about the power of presence. When you're not worried about future consequences, you can focus entirely on the present moment. That complete presence is often where peak performance lives, regardless of age or recent form.
For anyone facing transitions, career changes, retirement, relationship endings, Fognini's story shows how to maintain dignity and purpose during difficult passages. Instead of being a victim of circumstances, you can choose to be the author of your final chapter.
The broader lesson is about embracing terminal freedom, the psychological liberation that comes from having nothing left to lose. This doesn't just apply to career endings. It applies to any situation where you stop protecting what you have and start pursuing what you want.
Perhaps most importantly, Fognini's performance reminds us that endings don't have to be about decline and defeat. They can be about one final surge of excellence, one last chance to show the world who you really are when everything is on the line. Fabio Fognini walked onto center court knowing it was probably his last time. He faced the defending champion, world number 2, a player 16 years younger and infinitely more accomplished recently. By every logical measure, he should have been overwhelmed. Instead, he nearly created one of the greatest upsets in tennis history.
His near victory wasn't about denying reality or fighting against time. It was about embracing the end and using that acceptance as fuel for one final masterpiece. That's the paradox of farewell performances. Knowing it's over can set you free to perform like never before.
This episode was brought to you by Unstructi, where we explore the psychology behind life's most meaningful moments. Fognini's farewell wasn't just about tennis. It was about how to face endings with grace, dignity, and one final surge of excellence. Sometimes the most beautiful performances come not when we're trying to extend our story, but when we're trying to end it perfectly. Fabio Fognini may not have won that match, but he won something more valuable. He got to choose how his story ended. In a world obsessed with endless growth and perpetual optimization, there's profound wisdom in knowing when to say goodbye and making that goodbye unforgettable. Whether you're facing retirement, career transitions, relationship endings, or any other significant conclusion, remember Fognini's lesson. Accepting the end doesn't mean accepting defeat. Sometimes it means unlocking your greatest performance when it matters most.